Hello everyone, this is Jackie Williams. Thanks for joining me. In this video, I want to share with you the Splendid Autumn Suite. So we have stamps, dies, and some unusual dies in there that I'm going to show you, as well as gems, gold leaves, ribbon, and these beautiful, what I call picture print papers. And then on the other side, you can see that they're all solid prints, but I will show you examples of using those as we go along. Let's start our project by doing a little bit of inking and stamping. So I'm going to use some fresh freesia and a blending brush. And this piece of paper is 3 3/4 inches by about 5 1/8 inch. Now I'm just blending that color up all the way without re-inking, just so that it fades into the white. And I want to make it a little heavier here at the bottom. I think I'm even going to grab this petunia pop just to put a little bit of that darker purple at the bottom. Now let's stamp. And for my stamping, I'm just going to use this little wheat image from the Autumn Expressions stamp set. And I'm going to do that in Night of Navy. So I'll ink once, and I'm going to stamp 3 times, and then ink again and stamp 3 times. Now for the next step, if you would like, I just want to do a little bit of splattering there, and I've got my Blackberry Bliss pen, and I'm just very gently just going to splatter a little bit the tip against the lid, and just gives me a few little speckles there. Next, I would like to just tear the side like this. This is just one way you can make a piece of cardstock that is just stamping, which is great, but can also be a little flat. It's just to make it a little bit interesting. So now I want to emboss my words, and I'm going to use my Emboss Buddy fairly generously, because I've just put quite a lot of ink on here and done some rubbing, so there might be a little bit of static electricity on there. So I've used my Emboss Buddy, and now I'll use the Versamark and stamp the Grateful for You. I'm going to just have that overlap the wheat just a little bit. And I'll use gold embossing powder. And then we'll heat this to set. That gold embossing powder does look amazing. Okay, now for our assembly. I have cut a piece of Night of Navy that is really long. So I'm going to adhere this piece onto the Night of Navy, so it's even on these 3 sides. I probably didn't need to cut it quite this long. And then I will tear the Night of Navy so it is just a little bit longer than the white piece. So you're just seeing that little bit of navy there. And I'll go back and even kind of curl those up. Now on our card base, I actually did both petunia pop and fresh freesia, because sometimes when you're watercoloring or blending, you're not quite sure how the color is going to turn out. Ooh, I don't know which one I like better. I think I like the petunia pop slightly better. Okay, so I'm going to put this, so it's on the card base, just set it there, just so I can see how long I need to make it, or where I need to adhere it, and then place this piece over top. Then we'll put this on the card front, and then we just need some gems. Now these glass gems from the suite, these colors aren't the colors that I've used. So I'm going to use these clearer gems. These are called just iridescent foil gems, and they have a little bit of gold in them. So we're just getting a little fleck of gold onto the project, which is nice. It's just a very subtle effect. And then on the inside, let's just repeat that detail. And there we go. So that gives us the beautiful wheat and this kind of sunsetty background in the purples, and then that detail. So here is another sample that I made earlier, and this time instead of using fresh freesia and petunia pop, I have used the wild wheat, which I quite like this effect as well. Not just because it's called wild wheat with the wheat image, but I think the colors marry in nicely with the actual images. So let's have a look at some other samples that use the dies and the papers as well as these beautiful stamped images. So this first sample features the papers and just a simple design, just 4 squares put together to look like a window pane. And then I put clear embossing powder over the top just to give it a little bit of shine. Just a really simple design, but a nice way to use those featured papers. And then this is a card that I received just today from Laurence Desnos, and I'm probably saying that wrong. She's in France, and these are actually the meadow papers, but I thought it was still a nice design to showcase how to use those, what I call picture papers. And then this sample is a larger version of that first one that I shared with you, larger squares that covers more of the whole card front. And then we've got this great label, which I'll show you next. And then I used some of those pretty die cuts right out of the backs of the papers and some of that beautiful wild wheat ribbon just to accent that. This die here is a bit of an unusual one, so I had a little bit of a play with that just to see what it could do. So when you cut it, when you run it through once, you end up with these 3 pieces. I'll just turn that one around so it's not distracting. So you end up with this outline piece and then 2 labels. So you could just use the labels as is, like I have done here. This piece actually folds up and folds over into kind of a little purse design, and then there's a die for little chain handle and a little bar like a purse. Now I've cut these out in some different colors so you could see some of the elements a little easier. So this one I've cut out of the DSP. So when you fold it up, hopefully you can see that one side is slightly a different size than the other. So you could fold that up and you can see both the right side and, or I should say side A and side B of the papers if you're using designer series paper. And then you could even use one of these labels in behind. I know these colors don't really work, but then you can see side A, side B, and then whatever you put in behind. The other thing you could do is cut this little frame piece, cut that in half, and then you could cut off these little I'm just going to call them little hinge pieces. So you just have this sort of an outline, and then you could lay this over top, and then you just have a label, but it has a frame around it. You could also just take the 2 label dies, and they are also one slightly larger than the other. And you could just turn one around and layer them on top of each other like this. So that's another way to get a little frame around the edge. So here's some finished ones that I did. So here's one using the papers in this suite, and then I added the little chain and that little purse detail. It just makes a cute little tag. And then this one, I've taken off the little hinges and the purse detail and just used the pieces to make a little Christmas tag. So you could use it as a tag, as labels, as a little purse detail. This was one that I think all the little elements you could actually use quite a few different ways. And then for this sample, I have used the papers, the side A and side B, and I have used the die on just 2 sides. So this little, let's call it the frame die, I've just used it on the top and the bottom here just to create a different shape. And then I also wanted to share with you these leaves that are in the suite. They're called the woven golden leaves, and they are just like a gold foil, but you'll see here, you'll notice that mine are quite a different color. So what you can do is take your Stampin' Blends and just color them up. They will still have a bit of a gold sheen to them, especially as you move them, but it will add some color. And what's really interesting to me is you get very little color on the paper, even though it's mesh. So they actually take in a lot of the color. You can probably see it better on the white paper. So here's one that's uncolored and one that I've colored with the Mossy Meadow, and then these ones I've colored with Blackberry Bliss. So that's a great way that you can modify those to suit your project. And then just a couple more samples. Here's one that I've made that using that wheat in the background again, and then I've just made some beautiful watercolored gold autumnal leaves. And the tutorial for this is in the All-Star Splendid Autumn video class, and the link is in the video description for that class. And then this last one is inspired by Laura Beecham. She used actually different dyes and slightly different layout and stuff, but it was inspired by something I saw that she made of just using your die cuts all in white and then adding some colored embellishments. So here's a way that I've used those dyes in a color scheme that is completely different than the suite. So even if the suite colors don't necessarily appeal, you can certainly use the dies and the tools and the images for other things as well. So there are all my samples for you in this video. I hope that inspires you. If you would like to order the Splendid Autumn Suite, the link to my online shop is in the description, as well as to my other socials. Please feel free to share this video, leave me a comment, and of course subscribe. This is Jackie Williams, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.